Welcoming this gentleman to the On the Mark show is a thrill for me because he's a friend, he's certainly a mentor, he's, in my opinion, one of the great golf instructors of all time. He's David Leadbetter, and he's available on YouTube as well. David, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, pleasure, Mark. Nice to see you.
It's always my treat. I mean, whenever you're around, I do more than I just do a whole lot of learning. So it's always a welcome addition to my time. And before I get to this little training aid here that you sent me, and I've loved testing it, I just want to sort of reintroduce David Leadbetter to our fans, because everyone knows you. Everyone knows you as the great golf instructor who was sort of the guy who spurned this generation, major champion coach. You've done it all, but now you haven't been on tour that much. So I want to know, where's David been? What's David up to?
I'm getting old, Mark. So it's hard to travel all over the world like I used to and what have you. But no, seriously, so I had a serious foot injury a couple of years ago, and which has been taking time to recover and hasn't been able to. It's tough walking. When you know yourself, when you're traipsing these fairways all over the place, it's a lot of work. And so I've sort of cut back a little bit on that, and I still see a few players and a couple of girls on the LPGA and so on, but without actually traveling out to see them. I'm sort of maybe I'm learning from Butch. I don't know, but the interesting thing is, we've got our academies all over the world. We've got 35. I've associated with a group out of Korea called Golf Zone, who are the biggest simulator company in the world. So we're doing some indoor facilities. So I'm a consultant to them now. Actually, the fun part, what we're really doing is, I'm actually just finishing up another book. So my ninth book, actually. And we're building a golf course down in the Sarasota area called Soneto. And with my good friend, Nick Price. So he's going to be doing the design work on it. Nick's, he did MacArthur down there. He's got a great mind as far as golf courses are concerned. So, and we're going to build a world-class practice facility as well. All the thoughts that I have over the years, and we're going to put it together. And so we're really excited. So it's just a few miles outside of Sarasota, and so that's going to be opening next year. So keep him busy.
No kidding. I tell you what, if there was a collection of minds I'd love to spend, I'd pay for to spend time around, would be you and Nick Price. I mean, my goodness gracious, if I have two guys that have influenced me as someone in the game and certainly someone as an instructor, I would say as a player, Nick Price, as a coach, you. I mean, that must be so much fun to work alongside him.
Yeah, it's great. We've been friends. I mean, I've known Nick since he was 12 years old, when we were pulling our caddy carts behind us on our bicycles, to the golf course. And his brother Tim, who's unfortunately no longer here with us, but so we've been lifelong friends, and obviously I coached him during his career, and it's interesting. I mean, even Tiger says that Nick probably was one of the finest ball strikers that he's seen. So he's got a great mind, and we talked. He still. The funny thing is, Nick doesn't play that much these days. His major is the father's son now. So, but he still loves the game. He still loves to hit balls, and he says, "I'm hitting it terribly," and he sends me swings. And so, what do you think? And I said, "SOS," same old stuff. So, but no, it's fun. It's golf is. Look, it's been great to me. I mean, the people I've met and the things that have happened to me through the years. I mean, it's just a great sport, and it's more than a sport; it's a way of life. And so I've been very fortunate to be where I am, and had the luck to work with players like Nick Faldo and Ernie Els and et al. I've had, I think, 23 major winners that I've actually coached. 7 world number ones. So it's been a good life. So I'm just trying to sort of slow down a little bit. We've got 3 kids still, and my wife Kelly. So we're trying to spend some family time and keep golf really obviously still at the forefront, and designing training aids. Finishing another book, and so I'm keeping busy.
You know what? Whenever you're around me, I learn. I love the SOS thing, because everyone listening to this and watching this is like, Yeah, I've probably heard that from my professional before, where it's like, just keep on doing what you're doing, know your tendencies. And that's one of the big lessons I learned from myself. I'd like you to elaborate on that before we get to the training aid. Just the value of knowing oneself when it comes to playing the game, because yeah, you talk about Nick Bryce, who could hit the thing up a gnat's rear end. He's that accurate and he strikes it
Yeah.
that well, but he is still Nick Price today, what he was when he was back in the day, dominating world number one.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The golf swing is it's one of there's a certain DNA, and I mean, as I say to people, look, you from 200 yards away, you can know who this player is, even if you can't see their face. You see their little idiosyncrasies, you see their motion, you see the little habits that they have, and just the way they walk. I mean, it's interesting how everybody is different. I mean, it's like fingerprints. So I think one of the things is the level of technology that we've got going now. From 3D to obviously, you name it. I mean, we've got
force
every. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got to a point where you can analyze everything to the nth degree. I mean, but in the end, it's showing the effect. I mean, you can get on track, man, and it's not going to tell you why this is happening, right? It tells you what's happening, which is great. I mean, and we can see certain things, we can see changes, and which is beautiful. But there's still, to me, I mean, I'm actually, from a teaching perspective, I'm glad I grew up in the era where there weren't any. I mean, hey, looking at film, I was one of the first to use video way back in the day.
It's because of you that I had a Sony Handycam. I was that guy that had, they remember the Handycam era?
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh man, yeah. Do I remember that, honestly, at one tournament I was at, I think it might have been TPC back in the day, and I must have seen 15 players that week, because that was probably like early 80s, and players really hadn't seen their swings on film. They were so eager to see what their swing looked like, and I mean, back even in the Ben Hogan era, I mean, he had 8mm, this sort of thing that would tick by, and he'd sort of look at it, because I think even he said, listen, if he had video, he would have found his secret maybe a lot sooner. But it's interesting. I mean, yeah, we do. I think as a coach, you're trying to make a player their own best coach, so they understand what's going on. They really need to understand. I think where players get lost sometimes, they get off track there. They try new things, and I mean, there obviously have been cases where players have really improved and having made changes. I mean, somebody like a Nick Faldo, I mean, for instance, going back. But generally speaking, it's very, very tough. I've always felt that you create a sort of a DNA about your golf swing. You can probably change it in the early years and in the teens, early 20s, but you get to a point where mid-20s, as you get past that age, I mean, your swing is your swing. So you better figure out how it works, what the tendencies are, what you got to do to get back on track, et cetera. And that's why, I mean, you look at Jack Nicklaus and Jack Grubb. I mean, they stayed together for years. And so there's a lot of player-coach relationships, Jordan Spieth and his coach, obviously. I mean, it's amazing how I think players sometimes flip-flop a little too much, trying to find the holy grail, shall we say, So, but, and, is there a secret? I think, I've always say to players, look, when you find your formula, when you find your recipe, stick to it. Just stick to it. I mean, you might adjust it slightly, you might add to it, you might subtract from it, but just try to stick to it, because the closer you can stick to it and the simpler you make it, then you can go out and play. And I mean, we hear all the time. You mean, think back to a Luke Donald who tried to change his golf swing.
Yeah.
So he spent hours and hours and hours working on his golf swing, and then he lost his immaculate short game. I mean, the guy had he was the best wedge player in the world, great putter, and he lost that part of the game because there's only so many hours in a day you can work at it. So it's the psychology part of this sport is really, really big, and trying to convince players, okay, listen, you're not that far off. You've got to, I mean, I think the best coach in the world for that is Butch. I mean, because he really, I think, exemplifies the fact that, hey, you pass on confidence. I mean, I think of him, working with Phil Mickelson all those years. I mean, his swing didn't really change. Didn't change, but it was this, I mean, hey, we're just working on this, working on that, and it's like, hey, and say that confidence that he imparts, I think is a huge part of his quality as a coach.
I'm so glad you say that, because I remember when I was coming up as a young instructor, and I remember the first time meeting you was like I'd met my hero kind of thing, and you were always sort of known as the technical guy, but the David Leadbetter I knew was the furthest thing from. I mean, I learned from Nick Faldo, obviously learned from you. He said to me, the most important thing in my swing is the tempo, the timing, because that glues it all together. And that's how you're inclined, and that's the David Leadbetter I know.
Well, I think the problem is when you write books and you do videos and what have you, get labeled. Okay, you say, okay, this is his theory, and so I always say, look, you can write books and do videos and instructional stuff, and it's probably only going to suit 25% of the people that look at it, because A, it might not fit them exactly, and B, they probably interpreted it incorrectly. So it really is a case of, I mean, when people watch me teach, I mean, and I've always been a very instinctive teacher. I think instinct is a huge role. That's one of the reasons I was saying growing up without all the technology to some extent helped me, because you do use your instincts and your feel in order to help players. I mean, when you've got a player who's playing really well in a tournament in the last round, I mean, and things aren't feeling so good, you've got to find that little magic sort of cue, if you will, which sort of gets people going, and so I remember my great friend Dennis Watson, who won the World Series back in the early 80s, 84 I think it was, and so I remember it was the last round. I think he shot 62 in one of the rounds. My memory sort of leaves me a little bit there as far as which round it was, but anyway, I flew up for the last round. I know it there because we just had a baby, and Kelly said, "Hey, you leaving?" And I said, "Just for the day, honey. So just for the day." And his thought was, okay, just put some pressure in your big toe on your left foot as you start down. We always talk about it. So that was his key the whole day. I mean, it was a funny thing to say, but it was like, hey, that just got his mind focused, and it was like, and he played great and won the tournament. So these are things, as I say, I think you learn as a coach and a teacher. I mean, it seems a long time ago. I just turned 71. I can't believe it. But
you're still under par. You're good. You see,
still one under par. Yeah. And so, and it just, just thinking back, I mean, such a long time ago, in so many cases, but I still have the love for learning. I mean, one of my mantras, and I try to get this through to all our coaches, that we who dare to teach must never cease to learn. So that's the fascinating part of the sport here, because you can listen to somebody, you might not totally agree with it, say, but that makes a lot of sense. And you think something so simple as the golf swing, right? We'd have it all figured out by now, right? But it's all, it's things come, things go, and so I've sort of, I've sort of been there through this whole era of, from where, I mean, you think of it, I mean, look, I went from, didn't quite go from hickory, but, from steel to, the metalheads, and, the AI now involved in golf equipment. I mean, it's incredible really how this game has progressed. But in the end, I think we've got to be really careful. As coaches and teachers, we have to realize that most of the people that are playing this game are not tour players. And I think that's one of the things we have to look at from an instructional standpoint, because if you go on YouTube and everything else, so much is geared towards a really, really good player, good athlete, young player, and the masses, are they getting better? So that's one of the reasons I built. I love these little training aids and this new one, which we'll talk about, because I think the whole key is, if you want to grow this game and you want to keep it healthy. It's interesting how COVID did an amazing job for us in that department. But if you want to keep this game healthy, get people playing better, enjoying it more, because people have less time to play and practice. Let's face it now, with the busy world that we live in.
And if people play better, the game gets faster too. So all your pace of play
exactly. I always remember doing an outing at Pebble Beach a few years ago, and they had these guys all dressed. They looked like they were pallbearers. I mean, they came up to, "Sir, how can we help you, sir, to to speed up just a little bit?" I said, well, maybe get these guys hit fewer shots. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Few shots, faster play. What's something crucial too to, all this learning, all the stuff we have is to have, one's feel. And one of the things I learned from you, my mentors are you and Bob Jones by books, and John Jacobs I've got to meet fortunately as well. So those are the people that have shaped me as an instructor. And the one thing always is to practice with purpose. And so that's where training aids and drills and fields and stuff to me are so very important. And you've had so many training aids you put out. My favorites were the formed grip, the Leadbetter grip. I have one of those to this day on a golf club in my studio. And then the swing setter. I love that for just learning to make speed at the right time.
Right.
It's a little thing.
Yeah.
Straight away.
It looks like a toy fire engine or something.
For the folks who are watching on YouTube, here it is. And I'm going to let David describe how it works. Now, I'm going to tee you up and first off say that every great endeavor begins well. And this thing helps you to start your golf swing well. I remember when I was playing, everyone, the one piece takeaway, if you will, to start well, and then obviously to start your downswing well too. This is just an awesome way to get the feeling of where correct is. Because so many, like I'm trying to do this and my teacher taught me, but I don't really know. I'm trying to search for this when I'm back on the range, but I can never find that spot. So tell us the inspiration for this thing, please.
Well, the one area which if you look at the difference between tour players or really good players, let's say, and the average amateur is the first move away. People ask me, what's the most important move in the swing? Well, I said, the first move. I mean, not neglecting, your grip and your posture, because obviously that helps the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first move is so important because if your first move is a little off track, you've then got to make a compensation somehow, because remember, I'm not saying the swing is a strict circle, but we assume it's a circle. So you've got the hands working on a circle and you've got the club head working on a circle, right? Exactly. So to start with, first of all, the interesting thing is if you ask a lot of amateurs, okay, what do you understand by the takeaway? I mean, you will get so many different answers. I mean, it's mind-boggling, low and slow. Okay, I want to take it back to the first foot. Then I want to cock my wrist. Okay, I want to turn my shoulders to start this. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, to me, the first move is very complicated. And I've always found it difficult to actually communicate the first move. Yeah, you can put, with Ernie, for instance, Ernie, who had a tendency to sort of get the club moving away from him as he started back in the day. And then he got the club laid off. We're talking about when he was 20 years old, but
this is Ernie Els, right?
Yeah, Ernie Els, right. So we had, there's only one Ernie from what I remember, unless you look at Sesame Street or something. But anyway, so we got a little piece of wood, 6 inches long, a 2x4 basically, okay, and it provided a little resistance there. So he actually had to push that piece of wood away, and the key is, you can ask Ernie today how he starts his backswing. He'll always tell you, with my belly button. Okay, so it's not with the hands, it's not with the arms, it's not, okay, the club head moves first, but in actual fact, the belly button moves. So it's a little shifting of the core, in other words. And so to me, that's the key element. When you look at, when you look at players, we've actually identified 8 different bad takeaways, from whipping it in to taking it out, then rolling it, closing, opening, picking it up. I mean, there's a whole host of these things which create a lot of problems. So a lot of times when I look at a golf swing now, or I always have done, is like I look at the first move to see if that's the problem area, because that's normally the source of most people's issues. If you get off to a bad start, I mean, yes, good players, I mean, and I'll go into a little bit. I think that, in my personal opinion, I look at swings, obviously looked at so many swings over the years and studied them. I would say that if I had to criticize Rory McIlroy's swing, I would say his takeaway is his issue. Because if you look how his hands move away from his body, you look at Tiger, I mean, how the butt of the club almost moves in. So when Rory moves the club out, and he's always talking about keeping the club in front of him, it sort of moves out, and then it sort of gets behind him at the top. Occasionally, when he gets long, it gets even across the line. But the problem is, that the golf swing the big thing with the golf swing is that you've got to synchronize your arm movement with your torso motion. That's the whole key from a consistency standpoint. You can get people make a great looking pivot motion without a club, but yet put a club in their hand, the body reacts differently. And so, to me, getting the club on track early is really, really important. And so, and I say, if you walk down, you walk down a tee at any golf course, a practice tee, and just watch amateurs. I mean, 90% of them have poor takeaways. 90% of them, I'm telling you, and even if it looks good, they probably haven't got their body involved in getting the club to that first, we call it the tour takeaway. That's what we call it now, the tour takeaway, because where the hands look in and the club head looks out. That's the whole key.
Yeah, and the faces alignment off the top of that too, because like you say, folks can kind of look like they're in the right spot, but they're not engaged.
Yes,
and that's where I love because you've in your little explanation of the thing said, if you use this the straightaway, you may feel this. And the one thing you talked about, the little movement of pressure in your feet, because to get the club in that area, it's not just a movement of the arms. There's everything engaged. And to certain folks, like Ernie might feel his belly button. Someone might feel the big toe. It's whatever
exactly.
sensation.
That's a feel aspect of it. But although, say, from a biomechanics standpoint, there is some movement with the pelvis without necessarily having a huge hip rotation in order to do that. And so the thing I like about the straightaway, first of all, it's light. It just clips on your club. It weighs 2 ounces, fraction over 2 ounces. It's only 4 inches long. Just clips on. You go and put in a little bag, just throw it in your golf bag. You can use it for practicing, for practice swings at home to get this takeaway. And I don't like the term takeaway. The only reason I use it is because people around the world use it. I mean, in Asia, they call it the take back. And so I like the.
You've always called it a move away from when I knew you.
Yeah, exactly. So now when I'm teaching, I'm saying, okay, now we're going to move it to the takeaway. Because everybody talks about takeaway. Move away. I mean, in theory, that's the right way because you're moving it with your torso. You're not just moving it with your hands and your arms independently. And so, but the thing I really like about this is that it doesn't force you into certain positions. Okay, so yes, there are other training aids out there that get you into certain positions, and the problem is when you take those things off, you don't always look the same as when you have them on. This way, you identify exactly where you should be, and it's the nice thing about the takeaway position, shall we say, or the tour takeaway, is that you don't have to be a great athlete. You don't have to have a great skill level. Anybody can make that first movement. And if you get off to a good start, and honestly, Mark, we found that players strike the ball better almost immediately, or maybe when I say it, maybe after half a dozen shots, starting from the takeaway. In other words, you think about Mo Norman. Where did he start the club from? He had the club 60 to 80 inches back to the ball. And he was asked, why do you do that, Mo?
Yeah.
Why do you do that, Mo? And he answered him twice because Mo always used to say everything twice. But he said, why do you do that? He says, because you eliminate the problems. You eliminate the problems. And so, which is interesting. Mike Malaska was telling me exactly that same story when the great teacher from Arizona.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, he used to spend time with Mo, and Mo said anything up to 22 inches, he would have the club starting behind the ball. And so we've got players playing now with the straightaway, and it's called straightaway because it's got this yellow pointer arrow, 45 degrees, and if you do it right, and making sure the movement is a short movement, where the butt of the club does not get past your right hip pocket, the yellow arrow points straight away, almost towards 9 o'clock. So if you're addressing the ball at 6, points at 9. And the great thing with this is that, with so many, I call it a swing aid rather than training aid. Training aid sounds like too much like hard work, but so the swing aid, you just flip it around for lefties. So we haven't forgotten the lefties, and they just swing it at 3 o'clock. But it's really, I mean, I get swings all the time from players that say, hey, check the difference in the swing. It's amazing how you get the start right, how it changes so many other things. And the big thing, it changes the synchronization. To me, you see that the hands, the arms, the body sync up. And it's like, instead of, I always say, look, if you're living in New York and you want to fly to Miami, you wouldn't want to go through Dallas, okay? Because that's you might get there in the end, but you want a direct route, and that's the same thing with the golf swing. If you can have a simple direct route, you've got much more chance of the hands and the arms syncing up with the torso, and so which is ideally, I say, those are the two major components, right? The way that your body rotates and turns and coils, and the way that your hands, arms, and clubs swing. So getting those two matched up from a good setup position is really what the golf swing consists of, in my opinion.
Yes, and here's my personal feedback, folks. David sent me one. Here it is. For the audio listeners, it's the simplest little device to attach to your club. It's got these two little screws you can screw onto the shaft. You set it, and then this arrow, you put an alignment rod down your toe line. And if you get this thing moving back correctly, the arrow will line up with the alignment rod. And when you get there, you're going to see the shafts pointing away from you. You can't roll the face away because the face has to be square because the lines won't match up. And it allows you, of your own volition, to your observation there, David, to get into the right place, just to set it all up well. And so I had a young man that I've been teaching for a while, college player. I had a swing that was kind of a little discombobulated and stuff, but matched it all up well. But when the pressure got up, you know what pressure does to dysynchronize golf swings, huh? And right. it all started badly. So I just got this from you. I went to the range. I said to him, put this on your club shaft. He does that. We put the alignment rod down his toe line. I'm like, now I want you to match up those two lines. Because he was the guy always, he had an instructor that said to him, you got to keep the club face outside of your hands. So he was the biggest handle dragger in the world. And from there, he'd have to recover late. And the thing was across the line, got way open. And then it was just messy. He put it on like this. And for the first few times, you could see him sort of go, oh, goodness. But when he figured it out, it became like clockwork. And then he hit balls with this on. And you could, not that he was watching the club, but you could see the sense and the discipline in the move away.
Right.
Story short, he just qualified for the US Amateur.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's because of the simplicity of this thing. And again, because you're asking yourself to do it without a guide too much. And so I'd like you to talk along those lines about the big mistakes you see in the start. We've lost your camera, but it's pointing down at your training aid there.
So, it is? Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can get me up here.
So
better? There we go.
So as you've seen it, like I say, he drug the handle inward. The handle got sort of behind him too much. The club face was outside. And then from there, they'd have to roll the face to the top. Right. Talk about the movements in the starts, the mistakes that you've seen throughout your career, please.
Well, I think essentially because players have, the term takeaway signifies, okay, I take the club back. And as we said a few minutes ago, it's a case of moving the club back. I think, I say, the start of the swing is very, very difficult for a lot of players, especially, a lot of amateurs, Mark, who get really tight, really tense and put so much tension in the forearms. I always say, look, you've got to keep those forearms soft. It's not like you have to have a loose grip, maybe a light grip, maybe the term, but the soft forearms. And then if your body actually moves, what we do to illustrate the first move is to actually give people we have a medicine ball. Okay, so about an 8 to 10 pound medicine ball, and you grasp it. And we're actually got with a company now that making these medicine balls where you can put your hands in it and move it back. And it's interesting how, in order for the medicine ball, your hands and your arms to move, you've got to shift your middle. You'll feel it as soon as you just do it independently because of the weight of the ball. Mm-hmm. So we use that to illustrate, okay, this is the feeling that you want to move it away. The things that we see, honestly, is say the biggest mistake we see when we talk about the hands are in and the club head is out. The biggest mistake we see with amateurs is the hands are out and the club head is in. Mm-hmm. And so and that's the biggest mistake. And especially, somebody say, oh, no, you take it too far inside. So what do then? Then they push it outside. They've got no way to identify exactly where they need to be. So there's a little bit of geometry involved in the swing. As much as we don't like to be technical and make it overly complicated, I mean, we talk about planes and angles. I mean, golf would be a whole lot easier. Let's face it, if we had a 4-foot tee and we could swing it on a horizontal plane. That would be very, very simple, right? But problem is when we're pitched forward like this, and we've got clubs with different lies and we've got different length shafts. I mean, trying to picture that circle on that pitch is not always easy. So it's a case, really, I say, as I said earlier, we've identified like 8 different bad takeaways, which create a whole host of problems down the line. Somebody, say a player who whips it in and then picks it up and then comes over the top there. Well, you know, if they get their start right, they eliminate 90% of that bad move. And so, and you know, the one thing I really want to emphasize here, I'm not trying to create a method here. This is no David Leadbetter method. I think every coach, every teacher will probably agree how the club should start back. So whether they want it be on 1 plane, 2 planes, they want it short, they want it longer, they want it laid off, they want it across the line, they want it, you know, neutral wrist position or a bowed wrist position. Hey, that's entirely up to the teacher, but and the player. But the fact is, the start, the fact that you can get your middle moving and have a check to make sure, hey, yes, that's exactly where I need to be. And so after a while, I think you'll find this, Mark, if you just use it for a week or two, you don't need the alignment stick on your toe line, okay? And actually, you don't even need the straightaway, because you've got such an image that's indelibly printed in your mind where you should be, and then you just use it to periodically practice to make sure, hey, that is still where I think it is, you know, because we know feel and real can change in this game, right? So.
Yes, and to that too, for the folks who like to video their golf swings, you know, you set the camera up from down the line, I could make something look vastly different to something from the front on, and you describe, you know, where the lines must match up just over the outside of your right thigh. I can make those 2 pictures look different from a down the line camera if I've stretched my arms away from me too much or whatever the case might be. So it helps to build this feel that you talk about.
Right. And that's in the end. So to me, okay, if you want to make a change in your golf swing, okay, you got to have the concept, okay, you got to have the image, and then finally you got to have the feel. Okay, the feel being that, hey, that's what you want to take onto the golf course. I mean, you know, you don't want to have conscious thought out there. We know conscious thought creates tension, and it's a real problem. I mean, you know, I've shown this to a couple of sports psychologists, and they love it because why? It simplifies what people are trying to do. Yeah. It fixes so many problems in the swing. I mean, to me, what's the point of working on where you are halfway back, or even at the top, or transition, or coming into impact, post impact? What's the point if you've got the first move completely wrong? I mean, it's like, you know, it doesn't work. And so I had, you know, one teacher who I've sort of have been associated with. He said, you know, the great thing about the straightaway, it's like you can practice on your own without a camera, okay, without a mirror, and you can actually make sure that, hey, what you're doing is what you think you're doing. And so it's great because you can hit balls with it too. You know, a lot of training aids, hey, well, you know, just, you know, I mean, you've got all sorts of different things out there. There's some very good ones out there, don't get me wrong. And if it gives you the feel that you need, that's perfect. But this, to me, this actually educates the golfer a little to say, hey, this is where I need to be. I mean, because as you said at the start of the show, I mean, it's like, well, okay, I understand what you're saying, but how do I know I'm there? If I, you know, I mean, you know, people come the next week and they've either overdone it or they've underdone it. It's like, you know, so anyway.
I learned quickly enough, and I've kept you for a long time. And then I just want to touch the downswing too, because the beauty of that is for advanced golfers, you can use it that way too. I watched my eldest daughter, Isabel, who was very artistically inclined. She always had a wonderful, as like a little tot, a wonderful sense for color. And she'd color in the prettiest pictures, but they'd be haphazard because she was coloring outside the lines, but the colors were gorgeous. And when she learned kind of where the lines were and how to color inside those beautiful colored pictures just became masterpieces. And golfers, think of your challenges through your career of going from concept to image to feel. You can describe the concept and they get it, but to then take that to a feel where they can go do that by themselves, that is, to me, one of the hardest challenges ever. Wouldn't you agree with that?
100%. It's like, and you know, and then take it one step further, take it from the practice area to the golf course is like, that's a whole different area, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, just getting back to your point about the downswing, it's like, if anybody can see here, but it's like, I'm going to try to get in there. But essentially, the nice thing about this is that as you're approaching impact and your hands are, you know, maybe just slightly short of the ball, but you actually start to see now how this arrow is pointing straight away once again. Okay, so in other words, it's parallel to that stick on the ground. So It's a really good idea. In fact, a lot of good players say, I really like it for the downswing. And you know what it's really great for too, Mark, for a lot of players is the chipping and pitching aspect of the game.
Yes.
You know, because generally speaking, if we see a problem in the long game, it's going to bleed into their short game.
I couldn't agree more. The beauty about the beauty about the downswing thing too is, you know, all the golfers who tend to pull on the handle too much or they tilt out of position. I mean, folks can talk about early extension till the cows come home. If you just know where the club's got to feel, your body's going to organize itself around there too. So it's a beautiful way just to kind of practice, drill, get the sense for it, then go ahead and add some speed. I mean, it's so simple.
I you know, without sort of trying to, I think this is the best training aid that I've actually brought out, and I'm excited because I really think it could help thousands of golfers, of all levels.
Okay.
Excuse me.
One more question. So now we've shown the folks, you've explained the golf swing beautifully as you always do, the value of this. So now folks want to go and get one. So where do they go so they can get the straightaway, please?
They can go to straightawaygolf.com.
As simple as that.
Simple as that, yeah. Straightawaygolf.com. And say we've actually had to revamp production because we actually sold out. We had no idea that people would be so excited about this little product. And so it's really, to me, as I say, I'm not saying it's going to revolutionize teaching, but I say to teachers, it makes your job so much easier. If you can get somebody off to a good start, the rest is a piece of cake. And let's face it, let's think about the people that go to the range and practice, Mark. I mean, how much time are they spending on their long game versus their short game? Which it's crazy. I mean, if you really want to get scoring, you've got to get from 100 yards and work on your game. The problem is they're working so hard, so long on some of the aspects of the swing, trying to hit fairways, not lose golf balls, or get consistency. And this is the thing we're seeing here. It doesn't completely change a golf swing instantly. What it does do, though, it improves the timing to a point where we've seen people hit the ball more to the middle of the club face. It's like, whoa, and so I've got good players using it. I've got beginners using it. We've done a lot of testing, and a lot of women who just sort of pick the club up. I mean, it's really fun to see people improve, and that to me, look, as a teacher over the years, I mean, my greatest rewards and gifts have been seeing people improve, no matter what level they are. Because hey, let's face it, this game is you feel a whole lot better about yourself. I always say, look, people never go to the golf course having played a really good round of golf, go home frustrated and kick the dog. They don't do that. Okay, know what? They're happy. It's amazing how good golf makes. I mean, it just changes people's attitude towards life and everything else. So if we can add a little bit to their enjoyment, whereby they can hit the ball more solidly and play more consistently, because I think that's the question I get asked all the time. I just want to be consistent. I hit some good shots, when the stars line up, but I'm just never consistent. And so, so it's been fun. It's only been out for about a month or so now. And I just hope that people try it. And to me, it's a great way of being able to sort of say, work on your technique without getting overly technical with it.
I'm thankful that you would send me one. And if
I'll send you as many as you like, Mark. Whoever you want to send them to, you can send them. I mean,
and permit me to put a bow on this conversation. I've seen countless golfers. You've seen countless golfers who want to improve, and they then never really go practice with purpose, and right. they just hit balls. They're essentially on autopilot. And the golfers I've used this on, and I've hit a few balls, or I've practiced with it some too, it adds an element of discipline to the beginning of the golf swing. You cannot fake it with this thing. And so as a result, I see more focus, more purpose-driven work. And so the results happen quicker because it's not just blind hitting a golf ball. So I appreciate you for bringing this to golf. It really is.
Thanks, Mark. It's been fun. And so I'm going to let you into a little secret. It was a pure accident. I mean, it's very simple. It's very simple. And I looked at it and I thought, why the heck did I not think of this before? But I was actually practicing. I was just picking up a club at home, and I had my hands on the grip, and I had my index finger at 45 degrees, right? It was sort of just, I don't know why I had it there. It just was, you know how you do that sometimes. And as I moved it away, I thought, that's interesting. Because I always talk about the 8 o'clock position where the club is.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, look, my club's at 8, but my finger's at 9. And then I started to sort of think a little bit, you know, I messed around with plastic knives and glue, you know, with tape on. And that is really amazing. Because if you get to that spot, you've got the takeaway taken care of, you know? And so it was a pure accident, I assure you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the David Leadbetter I know and love right over there. The mind is always working. You're always looking for ways to make golf improvement easier. David, thanks for this. Thanks for joining us. I certainly appreciate you and your time.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, keep up the great work on TV and everything else you do, man. It's great to see.